Okay, so we have some rugby league news that's been confirmed today. The 2026 Rugby League World Cup will be co-hosted by Australia and PNG. The majority of the games will be played in Australia, with a select number of games played in PNG at the end of 2026. Now, obviously, back in 2017, Australia, New Zealand, and PNG all co-hosted the 2017 edition of the World Cup, and the PNG games all sold out. PNG made the quarterfinals. New Zealand were a bit disappointing in that tournament. Obviously, Australia went on to win the tournament against England in a low-scoring final. The last World Cup, actually in England, obviously was delayed by a year. It did lose money, and there was a lot of empty seats at games. Games didn't sell out. But it was good to see like some new nations play at the World Cup, like Jamaica and Greece. This tournament will have a slightly different format. It will be a smaller tournament with only 10 nations participating. That's all 8 of the quarterfinalists. They've automatically qualified, and there's still 2 qualification spots up for grabs with like a World Challenge kind of format qualification tournament to take place to see who are the other 2 nations to make up the 10. The women's tournament will be a separate affair when they have their own separate World Cup. So the format has changed, but since the last World Cup and now, the International Rugby League Board has announced massive losses of over $500 million. So the IRL has lost a lot of money, and the last World Cup lost a lot of money. And of course, with the US pulling out of hosting this tournament, and then France again citing cost concerns, that's a big blow to try and grow the game internationally in North America, and a big blow to continuing to try and grow it in France as well, and Europe, because the Super League is struggling at the moment in comparison to the NRL with finances and the club game. Now, I think they've gone with Australia and PNG because they know it's a safe bet. They know the crowds will be there, and we've seen the massive growth of the game. Even in Australia, the NRL is expanding, and there is going to be most likely an expansion team in PNG in the coming years as like a 19th or 20th team. So, and the Australian government's involved with that NRL expansion bid and allocating funds for development and infrastructure in PNG, which has its own problems. But when it comes to rugby league, that unites Papua New Guinea. It's the national sport. They're mad for it. They had some internationals at the end of last year at the Pacific Challenge, which were well supported. They won well they played well in those games, and some of the best PNG talent plays in the NRL. But I do think the IRL are playing a bit safe with this. Obviously, the losses made at the last World Cup were quite noticeable, and the fact they didn't sell out all the games. And while it wasn't the worst tournament in the world, it did have issues, and delaying it by a year was the worst of all 4 options that the organisers in England in 2022 faced. Well, it was meant to be in 2021, but they ended up playing in 2022. They put 4 options on the table: play with full attendance, partial attendance, no attendance, all in 2021, or delay by a year in the hope that the pandemic would have subsided by some point. But it was the one that was the least favourable option financially. It obviously lost money. The UK government pumped money into the tournament, and now we're seeing the struggles that Super League is facing. On the NRL side of things, I think the NRL is the driving force behind the international game now. The International Rugby League Board is basically bankrupt. It's made $500 million in losses last year, even with the Pacific Nations tournament that was hosted with NRL involvement at the end of last year. And that also includes the tour that Tonga took part in overseas in England, three test series. International Rugby League does struggle, so I can see why they've shrunk the tournament down to 10 teams. It's a shame. I really enjoyed seeing teams like Jamaica and Greece make their debuts and participate at the highest level. It does show that there is growth there in the international game, but when you compare it to rugby union and other international sports, rugby league is severely lacking a global imprint. Now, we obviously have the NRL games going to Vegas, and now Super League's got on that bandwagon as well, with Wigan Warrington playing a game alongside the NRL doubleheader in Vegas, and the women's international between England and Australia to be played in Vegas that weekend as well. I think the NRL is going to have to be the driving force of growing the game internationally at both club and international level. That's my personal opinion. People can disagree with that, and that's fine. But we now have a confirmed host, or 2 hosts, for the 2026 World Cup. Place your thoughts on Australia and PNG co-hosting the 2026 Rugby League World Cup below. What are your thoughts on it? What are your thoughts on the tournament being reduced in size from 16 teams to 10? Is that a good move? Is that a bad move? Is that regressive? I think it is a shame, but it does make sense to try and control costs. And if there are going to be losses made financially, which I don't think will happen in Australia and PNG, I think crowd numbers will be good. But it also means that there is a qualifying tournament for those lesser nations to fill the 2 remaining slots. So we'll see how those nations do. But we'll see what happens. We'll see if Australia can retain their World Cup title. We'll see if New Zealand can bounce back, or if England can pull a rabbit out of the hat and make another final, which like they did in 2017. So we'll see how it goes, but we now have a confirmed host for the 2026 World Cup. Thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comment section below. I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.